Tensei, you're gonna be fine.
I'm supposed to be someone you can look up to and respect, but look at me. Dinya, little brother, I'm so sorry. I failed you.
Tensei!
Welcome, my friends, to another Alliteration gaming video. This time, I have Mr. Willy T himself on again for another guest spotlight deck profile, and this time, he's going to be taking us through his Ingenium deck on the air symbol that he piloted to a beautiful, beautiful top 8 finish in one of the side provisional events in Orlando. Willy T, take it away, my friend.
Yeah, this deck is a whole lot of fun. You play a whole lot of charges and a whole lot of slams, and you hurt people.
Yeah, I mean, Ingenium is just like a stat monster.
And he's also hyper efficient, especially on the air symbol where you're going to have access to a lot of tools to really extend your plays really, really hard. And we'll talk into some combos with that. But let's get into the profile.
Sure, alright, so first thing we should do is just go over what Ingenium himself does. This man has a once per turn to give your EX or slam move 3 big ol' damage, and a very Edo 1 style response to give an attack +3 or -3 speed, and if it is your attack, you get to ready something every time your rival plays and enhance.
Yeah, early in the game, it makes a lot of your moves just completely uninteractable for your opponent for the fear of you readying your entire board and getting to play something for free. Especially something high cost like a Pillar Slam or a Pillar Swing. Those are really, really opportune pokes in this character.
These sure are some big, beautiful slam attacks.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's only the 2 of them in this symbol so far. I really think Ingenium is going to be a character who just benefits from more and more support being released, and he's just going to keep getting better and better as time goes on.
Alright, well, let's get on to the rest of the deck, shall we? So let's start off with the big ol' attack cards that we play.
Yeah, absolutely. I've played Pillar Swing at a 3 of. This card basically says to your opponent on your first attack, hey, don't play any enhances. Otherwise, I'm going to ready my entire stage. Checking a 3 on this attack in Ingenium doesn't feel bad because you just use your response to threaten your opponent into not being able to punish with a whole bunch of enhances, or you are threatening enough damage that they are forced to enhance and you get to ready your stage. And it's really, really dirty to just kind of slam that down with an extra 3 speed, an extra 3 damage, and then stun 2 your opponent to make something really, really big and threatening very, very early in the game.
Yeah, I mean, being able to put the extra damage on it also just makes it like even more threatening to block, right? Because like if you half it to get around the go into momentum, it deals what, 5 on the half?
6.
If it's 6 on the half,
Yep,
it's 11.
it's 11. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or you can even just like split up the stats, right? Like give it the speed, hold the damage, and say you have to block this 6 mid, and then my next ones can also have +3 potentially still, so you can make it like a really, you can play some really, really intense mind games with the threatening presence of your stats.
Oh, absolutely. This card's an all-star for going into the momentum as well, especially with Shoto 2 occasionally running around. That was my first match in the provisional, and I had 2 of these in my momentum in one of those games, and so he just hand me one back every turn, and it felt really, really good.
Casually get your low block back.
Yup. Next is 3 copies of Airstream Driver. Thinking back on things, I think playing this at anything less than a 4 of in this deck is actually a mistake. There is a card in here that after talking with Chris Bromley, which shout out to, absolutely fantastic human being, he helped me out with a little bit of a suggestion that I'll cover a little bit later, because there is a card in here that's a bit of a weak link, but this is your primary kill card. After your opponent has to block something like a Pillar Swing, now you get to come in with another big 9 damage move that you just get to absolutely hurt people with. Or you can make it 12 if you split stats like we were saying a bit ago. Alternatively, if you're doing everything all on this one, if you don't have a good target for it beforehand, making it a 9 high for 12 is very, very threatening after your opponent's already blocked something and you're starting to get to ready your stage as they prepare themselves to like, oh, I have to do something to block this.
Yeah, it's usually gnarly, especially because, like, you know, with this and this, you can basically just send in, like, 2 6-speed at least minimum 8 damage moves, right? That just only scale better from there and are just readying your stage in the process.
Yeah, and Ingenium plays a lot like Ida 1 does, where he wants to poke at you and then get a big move in Recipro Burst style. And this is even less interactable. Next, I have 3 copies of Ricochet Charge. Since we are on the air symbol, we get to make use of that air enhance anyway. But this card is here to not only help stun my opponent's board, but it also helps to be able to kick it out of the card pool to get things online such as Amphibious. It's a really, really gnarly card to just throw at your opponent and see what they do, because it's something that either they take it and I get to put all my Amphibious online, or they block it and they've got something in their card pool for me to kick out with Airstream Driver.
Yeah, I mean, Ricochet combined with Pillar Swing, like, as, like, a double opening just seems like the most annoying thing to deal with.
Yep.
Like, it's like, do I just, like, take 1 million damage for free, or do I just, like, tell him he doesn't have progressive difficulty this turn?
Yep, exactly. Next is 3 copies of Double Jab Pummel.
Hubba hubba.
This card is an absolutely great follow-up to your Pillar Swings, if they decide to half-block it. Or if they decide to not block it for whatever reason. It's a great follow-up for another card that your opponent just doesn't want to interact with. And that's kind of the goal of this deck, is to make your moves something where your opponent has to really decide whether or not they want to interact with it. As far as this card in particular goes, it also helps you get a bit of flow going. If they are low enough that they need to start blocking this, you get to draw 2, discard 2, plus you're getting the extra +2 to your check, which means that a 7 difficulty Airstream Driver is not going to feel as bad.
Or an 8 difficulty Pillar Swing.
Yeah, we don't talk about those.
Yeah, the sculpt is really nice too, right? As a 6-hander, these magical Christmas Land kill turns can be pretty hard to find.
Absolutely.
So the card draw is definitely really nice there.
Next is a very obvious air inclusion, and that is 4 copies of Electric Jolt. This is one of your other targets for your +3 damage, since it has the EX keyword, which a lot of people forget about. And it allows you to really make some very potent pokes. If you don't have Pillar Swing, this is basically the next best thing. You give it, you make it 7 speed for 7 before anything else happens, and now your opponent just has to go, well, I either have to completely block this and take the 1, or I'm taking 7, which is a lot more scary than the 4 that it's printed on.
Yeah, I mean, and then aside from that, right, it's just Electric Jolt,
yep.
right?
Yeah, and Jolt is just a
Electric
fantastic card.
Yeah, I mean, between this, Pillar Swing, and Ricochet, there's a lot of stun in this deck.
Yeah, absolutely. Last but not least is 4 copies of Zero Gravity Lift. After playing and talking with Chris Bromley, I actually think this card is the weak link. It is very useful in a character that I sideboard, but I don't think that is enough of an incentive to not play something else. It's still very good to get things into the momentum, which you want to use on your Jolts in order to EX them. You don't have a whole lot of other momentum outs, but this is a really good way to weaponize that momentum. In the future builds, what I would do is I'd actually take the 4 of these out, and I would put in the 4th copy of Airstream Driver and 3 copies of Long Lasting Explosion. I think Long Lasting Explosion, since it is a charge, is synergistic with the rest of the kit. It makes you have 8 damage double jab pummels. It gives you a total of 12 speed for 12 Airstream Drivers if you use everything on it. It makes 14 damage Pillar Swings. It is just a nasty card to pair with Ingenium.
Yeah, I mean, it's a stat monster card, right?
Yep.
That's what our character's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's all the attacks. It's 20 of them.
Hey you like the My Hero Academia collectible card game, right? If the answer is at least a resounding probably, you should head right on over to unfunstuff.com for all of your MHA CCG purchasing needs. We've got the new set Heroes Clash on pre-order, as well as the new DLC 2 in stock. And if you want to use coupon code Wealthy Aspirations, you can get 5% off your entire freaking order, and also support old Levi a little bit along the way. The link for all this is going to be right down in the description below, so get on over there and go get yourself some amazing product from some amazing people. Back to the video.
And then let's kick it into the foundations.
Let's kick it, man.
Let's start with 3 copies of Wall Cling. This one's a pretty obvious inclusion in any deck in these symbols, just because A, throws, and B, big attacks exist. And you need some way to handle those. Even with 28 health, you don't want to be taking big moves from people. So having some way to mitigate that incoming damage and prevent yourself from taking a whole bunch to the face is a really good idea. Next is 3 copies of Specialist of Sound. This one helps you hack your checks a little bit. Being able to see what you've got coming and plan around it a little bit more effectively is even more effective with Ingenium, knowing that
minus 6 speed.
that's part of it. But offensively, when you check this on your first attack and you know you have a 3 coming next, you know, because you get to do this before you respond with Ingenium, you can know, okay, I checked a 5 on this, I'm okay with committing the 1, I'm going to check a 3 on my next attack. That's the one that I'm going to use the Ingenium response on so that I can start readying my stage back up.
Right. Make sure you can punish them for enhancing and actually have foundations ready to do it with.
Exactly. Next is 3 copies of Confused. This card is just generically good in all of its symbols. It's very good to turn off certain combos or be able to mitigate throw damage or just turn off particular keywords that are obnoxious to you. Turning off a Todoroki stun is absolutely hilarious, and it's a good way to preserve your life total and preserve your board in a lot of situations as well.
Yeah, I think this is like one of the most flexible pieces of hate in the meta right now. There's so many things that this is really good against.
Absolutely. Next, 2 copies of First Day of Class. Giving yourself a little bit of extra on your checks is really, really helpful, especially in this deck where your big finisher moves are on 5 difficulty or 6 difficulty. You want extra bonus to your check in order to be able to actually get that through without having to commit to the board as much as as a normal character would. Even with the ability to ready up part of your stage when someone interacts with your move, it's still not always enough to prevent you from overextending, so this is a way to keep that in check for yourself.
Yeah, there's just so many times with like the big moves in this deck, your second one's going to be on like a 6 or a 7 or something, so it's really nice to have that like that fail safe where even if you check well, you still make use of it, or you still get value out of the buff.
Next is an inclusion that I think is probably one of the weak links in the deck.
Whoa!
I know it is heresy to say on this channel, but this deck doesn't have a whole lot that it uses momentum for. So this card was kind of I'm playing on air, I need it. And then the more games I played, the less I found that I actually needed this card. It's really good to make a jolt really, really fast, but a jolt being really, really fast isn't the difference maker that an extra momentum would be in a different deck. Next is 2 copies of Taiyaki Fanatic. This card is crazy. I have my own thoughts unrelated to this deck about it, but it is absolutely fantastic. It's great deadlock pressure, but also being able to not only say, if you enhance, I'm readying something, but be able to say, if you enhance, I can cancel it, is also just a great way to shut your opponent out of being able to interact with something. Making sure that their buttons don't work is a great thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a very generic, powerful piece of control. And a character that already is like, you better not enhance, buddy.
Yup.
Don't do it.
Next is a one of First Impressions. After playing with this card, I've kind of thought about it, and I feel like this is either a 0 of or a 4 of. Because it is so fantastic on your first move when you're slamming a pillar swing to just make that thing so nasty. That is let's include everything that is a 14 damage pillar swing on your first move that's 8 speed, and if they do block it, your next one's even faster. So it is a really nasty piece of work with that card, but it's one of those, like, if you don't see it, it's not going to be helpful. And that was kind of the problem I was running into. I had put in the Wealthy Aspirations over it, and I wasn't seeing this card in a way that was impactful to me. So I think going up on this card in the future would be a good move for me.
Yeah, I think this card's like kind of it's really awkward in a lot of decks, but I feel like this is one of the decks where it's actually quite good in.
Yep.
Just because it's so synergistic with that, like, that 1-2 kind of you want to do with your first 2 moves, where it's like, these are both, it's going to suck to deal with both of these. Figure out which one you actually can deal with, right? And don't get punished.
Yeah, absolutely. Next, we're going to play the best card in the deck.
Oh,
4 copies of Small and Limber. with the ability to destroy cards in your own stage. With stuff like Release or like Taiyaki. Taiyaki is the one I'm thinking of. But being able to turn on your small and limbers and have other things in your stage that your character may not ready with their response, but they ready on their own, is a great way to make your attack strings really, really efficient. And that was part of the goal of this deck, is to make these really hyper efficient attack strings where you're paying practically nothing for a whole bunch of stuff that you've got going on.
Yeah, I mean, between this, Amphibious, Requesting Assistance, and Ingenium himself, the air symbol has such a putrid amount of stage readying.
Yep.
And I feel like Ingenium just like pushes that home.
Yep. Speaking of
Devil!
Amphibious.
Devil!
Yep. This one's really fantastic with your Pillar Swings and your Ricochet charges, since they leave the pool. Zero Gravity Lift in this current build does that as well, enabling you to get things out of your card pool and into other places and ready up your Amphibious in your stage, along with using Small and Limber and stuff. You can make some really aggressive turns that you pay nothing for. Next is another extender card. This is destined for mainstream success. I play this at 4 copies because being able to pick up extra attacks off the top of your deck is really fantastic. And it also helps you plan out a little bit when you do miscall what it is. It lets you know, okay, I don't need to use, I haven't used my Ingenium response on this attack. I've got a 3 on the top of my deck. I'm going to use it on the next one.
Right.
So,
Also, like, whenever you have it on board and you check Specialist, it's just like a free card now.
Yep.
Yeah, like, regardless of whether you want it at the top or not, it's like just that option of just be able to draw it for free.
Yep. Next is 3 copies of Training with Gunhead. This card is mostly here for throw hate and a low block, but also since you have a lot of ways to buff your check, it's an extra speed on things to really make things a little bit easier for you in the long run. Like I kind of said, paying for checks ain't Ingenium's style.
Nah, dude,
So-
paying for stuff? We don't do that.
We don't do that here.
We want it all for free, baby.
Yeah, exactly. So now we'll go on to the zeros. We have 4 copies of Release. This is one of those cards that's going to be available to trigger your small and limbers, but it also helps keep you alive on the crackback. There's a lot of foundations that you want to just get rid of in order to get that +2 to your check, and that'll ready all of your small and limbers while you're playing on the defense. So it just makes killing you so much harder.
It's very difficult. Release is a insane card.
Yep. And then last but not least, we have 4 copies of Requesting Assistance. We like readying foundations. It is the thing we are best at in this deck. So getting that momentum and getting to ready everything that we want and just reuse everything in the stage is really good for this deck. Like we said, we don't pay for nothing. So that is... I have one more card in the main deck, and that is a 1-of Earphone Jack. This card is really useful since the entire attack package is charges. Helps mill your opponent, get rid of their good checks, but also readying a foundation after you whack somebody with something is a great way to extend even further.
Yeah, it's really nice too, especially with stuff like Jolt, where they just like can't stop it from readying the thing.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of foundation readying. And so that is the main deck. I know you kind of already talked about probably what changes you... Are there any other changes besides like the long lasting that you would make to it after playing the event?
Yeah, I would take out the Wealthy Aspirations and probably one other card in order to put First Impressions up to a 4. I really think that card is a big difference maker in this character on both the air and good symbol. Since a lot of the kit has a bit of overlap between those two symbols, it really helps to be able to like make everything you do every turn very threatening.
Yeah, I've definitely, since this card came out, I was very much like, I can't tell if this card's like really good or like extremely mediocre.
Yeah, and it lives somewhere on that spectrum depending on your character. And for Ingenium, I think it's really, really good. It is not the best card in the deck, but it's going to do something where you put your opponent in a really tough choice. Where it's like, okay, do I just take 14 on turn 2? Or do I take whatever the next thing is?
Yeah, it's like how much can you like actually deal with? Because like just the next having 3 speed, especially if you're like holding the Ingenium response basically says the next one is not blockable.
Yep.
Especially if it's like an Airstream driver and you block the first one and then it's coming in. It's like I feel like a lot of times it can just lead to them taking the first one and then you can just like build.
Yep. Yep. And sometimes that's enough.
Yeah.
Sometimes whacking somebody in the face with a pillar swing for 8 is enough.
Yeah, as much as like he makes crazy strings, he still is like very much like One, still just one of the best like poke characters ever.
Absolutely.
Just because like you throw that big one in, and then it's like I'm telegraphing that a lot worse is coming. So like this 6 mid for 8 probably as cheap as it's gonna get to block this whole turn.
Yep. Absolutely.
So speaking of changes, you do have a sideboard.
Yes,
prepared.
I do.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So let's start with 2 copies of Concentrate. This card's really, really good in the Tokoyami matchup, which I think Ingenium actually matches up pretty well into Tokoyami or anything that's using Summon Dark Shadow, because he's able to not only be on the symbol to play Concentrate, but being able to ready his own stage during his attack turns to be prepared to block is really, really helpful.
Yeah, it seems really good against anything playing Capture Evildoers as well.
Yep.
Obviously, an air deck protecting your special momentum pieces is very powerful.
My special children.
The special children, we need them.
Yes. Next is 2 copies of Ultra Compressed Weights. This is really good for the Life Ochako, any air deck, and Sue. Being able to just prevent things from leaving the card pool is an invaluable asset to you in pretty much any game where any of those symbols are getting played. And it's very tempting in the future to actually include like an unwavering slash package in the sideboard.
I mean, especially once like stadiums are like not
widely available.
not pure gold and actually in our hands. They seem like they definitely belong in this deck.
Yep.
A lot more punishing your opponent for blocking.
Yeah. Next is 2 copies of Encouraging Training Partner. Really good speed reset, being able to make sure that you're able to block and survive on the defensive turns is absolutely fantastic. It's a great way to just mitigate what your opponent is doing even further than you already are. Next is the 4th Wall Cling, the 4th Confused, and the 4th Training with Gunhead. And then last but not least, the girl,
Kirby!
Ochako Uraraka 1. Since this entire attack lineup is charges, it is very efficient on her. It's not going to provide you the same level of strings that you can get out of a Meteor Shower deck, nor is it going to have the same explosive power as Life Ochako with Haymaker and all of those crazy cards. But it's definitely going to allow you to get some very stable and very early advantage.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just gotta beat people up really, really fast.
Yep.
And Ochako certainly does that.
Yeah, and as fast as Ingenium is, he is not the fastest at taking people out.
No, he's certainly a bit more of a let me poke for a while, find my perfect explosion turn, and then kind of proceed from there on.
Yeah,
out, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, man, this is a really, really cool deck, Will. Thank you so much for coming on the channel and showing it off.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Anytime, man. Hopefully we can get some games in, maybe against your arch nemesis, the hero killer. It might be prowling around here.
I'm gonna leave now.
Yeah, we don't like that idea.
I don't like that. I'm gonna take this with me.
Whoa, hey, no! Oh, hey, didn't see you guys there. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, and be on the lookout for much more Alliteration gaming content coming in the near future, as well as this Hero Killer Showdown right here. Bye!